Hello, everybody. Reggie Time here, and today we're going to be looking at a bunch of hands I played yesterday on Triple Eight's 25NL and 10NL snap videos. But before we get into those, just a little bit of housekeeping. There hasn't been a video for like maybe a week or so now, maybe just less than a week, because the last video I made, the format reviewing the Sky hand, it didn't go down well. I didn't expect it to. I didn't particularly enjoy watching it back myself. Um, and a lot of my players been on Sky over the last maybe 5 or 6 days until yesterday, so I just not really had the inclination to make a video. But we've played some Triple Eight yesterday. We've got a bunch of hands to look at. All we're going to look at is like I played 5,000 hands in like 24, 25 hours, something like that. And I just marked every single hand that was where I won or lost. Um, I think the pot was like 50 big blinds or more, something like that. So there's going to be a lot of like relatively coolish hands, a lot of straightforward hands. But we're going to look at these and try and like count up how many mistakes I made and like just keep a tally of how much that cost me, because I think I've been playing reasonably well, but I've definitely got some leaks, definitely around the being a bit of a river calling station, and which can add them up today. I haven't reviewed any of these hands back. I've no idea how many like bad players there's going to be in. I don't know how costly it's going to be, so it's going to be quite interesting to see upon review how much I feel I could have like how much more I could have won by maybe getting away from some hands, or maybe how much more I could have won by perhaps um, missing some value. So we'll get into that shortly. It's not been the best of weeks, to be frank. My year got off to an incredibly hot start, and then some of my old mistakes came in. I played higher 50NL. I mean, I could probably beat 50NL in these games, but it's a lot tougher. There's a higher concentration of regulars and a higher concentration of more aggressive regulars that just cut win rates. Whether or not they're better than me is neither here nor there, really. They just cut win rates because they're just better. They fold. They make more good folds. They make more good value bets. They just make life tougher. So even if I'm as good as them, then but being as good as them isn't good enough. If you're just as good as 80% of the pool, then all of a sudden, there's not as much money that you can go to win. Whereas when I'm playing 25NL and 10NL, I think I'm better than more than 50% of the pool, possibly more than 60, 75% of the pool. Whereas when I play 50NL, that's not the case. So anyway, I played 50NL. I got my ass kicked a little bit, and then I went to Sky. Um, to be honest with you, ran really badly. Didn't play brilliantly, but just ran so badly against like the weaker players. Just spots where I'm just supposed to go broke, and I did. That it's unavoidable, and it's been quite a miserable week, to be honest with you. I've had like done quite a lot of soul searching. I'm still up for the year, but not by an awful lot now. Considering I was up maybe more £500, I think I'm probably on, or I was on, around a 400 quid downswing, which is a pain in the ass, but it's not the end of the world. So I made the decision on what day we're now, Thursday, sometime on Tuesday, that I just needed to like do one thing or another for a little while. And I decided my cards came down on Triple Eight. We're going to play Triple Eight. We can get lots of volume. It's consistent. I have stats. It just feels like a better option for me at the moment than arsing around on Sky. Sometimes two tabling, sometimes like 5 or 6 tabling. Not having stats on opponents. I actually just watched a lot of games on Sky the other day, and even a lot of the fish that I've got tagged as green, they're just like quite nitty fish. They're not there's not tons of people there splashing around. They're kind of playing really like quite passive, playing quite weak ranges, and that's what we see on Triple Eight too. But we see stats on them. So people have had tagged as fish previously on Triple Eight. When you look at stats and you start getting hundreds of hands on them, they're playing like 19/8, 20/11. And I think a lot of the people I've got tagged as fish on Sky, who I like have tagged as fish and presume to be loose, actually aren't that loose. There's several players who I think I have tagged as fish who are maybe playing like less than, say, a 25% VPIP, but just playing it very passively. And I want to see stats. I want to see stats on my own game. I want to make sure I'm not making pretty big mistakes against players who I think are fish, but are actually just like really quite tight and um, kind of like face up players that I presumed were worse than they were. So we're going to be playing quite a lot on AAA over the coming days and weeks, and I'm going to easily be able to get like 70, 80,000 hands per month in. I'm going to have to get some 10NL in there to do that too. But I can get 80 to 100,000 hands a month, and I can win at the win rate that I think is possible. Then I can make more money than I can make on Sky. Simple as that. It's harder work. It requires more effort. But I'm meant to be doing this now to support myself fully, so it's not going to come easy. It shouldn't be as easy as I would like it to be. And I just got complacent, and we're not going to get complacent now. Yesterday, as I said, I played a lot of hands. I also spent a lot of time going through my database, starting to add notes to players about the lines they take, the sizes they use, etc. And we're just going to put like a huge amount of effort in over the coming days and weeks, and just see exactly what I can achieve in these games. So, without further ado, let's get into the hands. And actually, I maybe remember some of these when they come up, but these are all going to be like pretty fresh to me. I marked all these hands during my 4 sessions yesterday, and maybe some of the ones towards the end of the session I will remember, but these are all done chronologically. So let's see what happens. Why don't we have HUD stats? That's disappointing. I think we'll pause this and reload it to get the HUD stats. So here we are, we're back, and for some reason that Jack hand appears to have disappeared. Maybe it'll turn up somewhere later, maybe I've filtered them differently, I'm not sure. But yes, here we go, we are back in. So this hand was played 1:30 in the morning on yesterday. So that's like when my AAA adventure rebooted. So we have a somewhat loose aggressive player min opening from the cutoff. We have pretty tight passive player flattening the button. We elect to flat the small blind. We flop a set on a monotone flop, and we donk out, which not sure why I've done that really. This guy C bets with a decent frequency. So yeah, it's a bit strange from me why I've done that. Player calls, player folds. We turn a full house, and I'll go for a check raise. I guess I'm just trying to like trap him for like if I think he's aggressive into like just playing a much bigger pot on the turn than maybe he wants. I don't know. This is an unusual. It's an old-fashioned line. They used to call this a stacker donk line, where you'd like bet flop, check raise turn to like catch too many loose aggressive players who would maybe spewing around a little bit. Not really sure. He shoves. We have the easy call, of course. That's probably not a good river for us. No, and that was just a set over set. So I think we lose the maximum there. It's unusual line to like donk and then check raise. So I took an unusual line, but we're going to lose the maximum there no matter what. But yeah, odd first hand, and that's not typically something I will do. So not really sure what's made me do that. Maybe it didn't want to just have it check through and see a spade. I don't know. Odd line from me there. Move on to the next one. We have two kings. We get what looks like a pretty clear and obvious fish. Opening to 3x, we 3-bet the kings to 11 bigs. We get the cold call on the button from someone who's probably a very clear and obvious fish too. And then this guy jams. This guy's not going to take too long reviewing this one. And that was just kings versus queens. Happy days. Well, there's not too many all-in pre-flops. We have the aces. We get 3-bet by basically an unknown. We 4-bet. He jams for another boring one. Whatever. Aces versus kings. Move on. Aces again. This might end up being quite a boring video. We 3-bet versus someone who looks like they may be on the loose aggressive side, but clearly not a regular because of their stack depth. We get the cold call on the button from this player here who like gets my orange tag. Orange tag isn't insulting. It's just regulars that I don't believe are capable of like giving us too many problems. It is probably very similar to myself, very face up, tight, not especially creative regulars. He cold calls a button, and then the opener calls two. We get the 4 deuce 9 flop. We check to this guy because he's got an 88% stab versus miss C bet. And I think we probably want to be doing a lot of checking here anyway. If this, like, if we're playing against somebody with a much lower number, if this player's number was like say in the 30s, I wouldn't have checked here. We would just do our own betting. But I think he's just going to bet with an incredibly high frequency, which he does. We put a small raise in. He calls. A trivial jam on the turn, I imagine, and he calls, and he had the queens. So again, just a kind of a cooler in our favour. Ace King of Hearts. We have obvious recreational player limping. As you can see, we're starting to get a few notes on people now, which you won't have seen for a while, but you're going to see more and more if I continue making these videos. Player isolates, another player calls. We have a trivially easy squeeze here. What size would I like to see myself go to? He's already 11 blinds in the pot. I wouldn't want to see myself be too shy here. I wouldn't want to see myself go less than 16. I wouldn't mind if it was even bigger. Happy to take the pot down pre. Also not unhappy to get one caller. We make it 21. I'm happy enough with that, given that there's already 11 blinds in the pot. He just goes all in, whatever we just call the boring one. He had kings. So still not unhappy with any of my lines so far. No reason to chalk any losses up to bad play, or especially bad play. Get this player's tag green. He could be orange almost, I guess, but it's a little bit loose there. It's got a much bigger gap, either PFR. This is like kind of the type of player I think, or one of the types of players I'm struggling identifying on Sky. People who aren't good. They're not playing a full stack. And they are, it's just these guys are hard to identify in Sky as this type of player, and it's kind of that, kind of like it's a visual representation of the problems I've been having. Because when I see green tag on Sky, I just presume like loose and passive, and I think there's lots of passive players, but not necessarily lots of super loose ones. Anyways, that's by the by. We 3-bet him with kings. He 4-bets. We go all in on the boring one, and this time he just had aces. Here we have with 2 aces. We open this pretty. I mean, it's tag pink. My pink tag is like pretty loose aggressive, like way more loose aggressive than the field in general. It's not necessarily an indication of someone who's good or bad. It's just an indication of this guy's more loose aggressive than general, and we want to be aware of that with our opens. So we 4-bet. He flats. We get the queen 9-3. This guy doesn't stab versus miss C bets very often. We lead into him. He calls. Turn is a king. We just shove. Just hope he hasn't got the king queen. He calls. Queen again revenge. He's had the king 10 of clubs. I mean, I think his play is not good. I think his 3-bet's probably fine. I think his defender of the 3-bet is marginal. I think his flop call is very, very marginal. And then he just hits a turn and gets. I mean, I guess you could argue, right? It's a 4-bet pot. He's kind of got a lot of connection around the queen of clubs. I just think it's all generally rather unnecessary. And I'm not digging this player out because this is a mistake I've made numerous times and probably will continue to make, where you make a 3-bet, you kind of feel, oh, fuck it, this guy's a reg, he's going to have some like 4-bets, so let's just defend a random hand like king 10 of clubs. Then we see the small bet on the flop and we've got some connection around the queen of clubs. So I understand how this has happened to him. I just think it's completely unnecessary in these games. And so I'm not digging him out because it's something I do or have done too. And it's something I know that do again, but I think he should just fall to the 4-bet. 2-8. I'm presuming we're going to flop a set. Yep, we do. Against this type of like 34/8 player, again, typical of the sort of player that you see on Sky, who you think is like way shitter than they are. Don't get me wrong, this player is shit, but you'd rather they would even looser, of course. So he bets like 1/3 pot. We raise small because like we just don't want him to. This pot is in this bet isn't big enough for our hand. We want to make it bigger, but we don't want to fold if he's just like stabbing some random ace king or whatever. Maybe he's going to fold them out. What size we make, but we don't want to scare him off. But at the same time, we don't want to. We don't want to just have the pot be really small. Like check call this flop, turn goes check, check. You arrive at the river, and there's 6.5 blinds in the pot against a fish with the set. It's not ideal. If we raise, he calls. Turn 6 of diamonds. We overbet because I think once he calls the turn check raise, he's going to be in overpair territory quite a lot, 10x territory quite a lot, stuff that isn't going to fall. When a 34-8 calls a check raise, probably not folding turns. Do we go with the overbet? He calls. River is a 9 of diamonds. Got a trivial shove now. I mean, we're not in love with the backdoor diamonds, but given we presume this player just has overpairs a lot, we're not worried about it either. So we go all in. He calls. And he had that, which surprised me. I remember this hand. I was like, right, the guy's playing 34/8, and he just finds a raise with the 3-4 of diamonds from the cutoff. It's how do you legislate for that? I think I was chatting to, I think it's Quadzi in the Sky Discord, a week or so back now, about how do these people sometimes turn up with these random hands? He's playing 34/8, 3-4 suited is not a hand you're going to assign to someone playing 34/8 who's racing the cutoff. But they sometimes have it, and it's confusing. And this has been happening quite a lot to me on Sky. It's been the massive frustration of thinking you know a player, thinking you know what their ranges look like, and then just having something that you just wouldn't anticipate. Which is why I've kind of been wanting to get back to having some stats. But then even this guy, when I've got stats, turns up with something that I didn't anticipate. So, yeah, whatever. Go figure. Back to Kings. We have a very, very face-up regular. There's him and another player in this pool, Baggy something or other. Both incredibly face-up players, but probably do quite well, I would imagine. Is this guy winning? It says he's losing, or well, virtually breaking even. But I'm presuming they do quite well in the pool because I think they've got a good style of play for the pool. Pretty tight, pretty solid, and they rarely miss value. We go with the squeeze. He calls this player on the button, calls this shit Romanian 20/11 player. We get the king high flop. I check. I'm not sure I should really. We got this guy who C bets 20% versus miss 3-bet versus miss C bet. This guy who does even less at 10%. This just should be a bet. We get bailed out. This guy bets. I hope I raise here. We do. And then he goes all in. And at this point, it's grim. It's really, really grim because this player's just like, he doesn't get his money in light. So the best we can hope for here is he has a flush draw. But we have the king of spades, which is not particularly helpful in terms of like him having flush draws a lot. I mean, we can't fold obviously, but it's a pretty grotty spot when this guy raises versus two players on the flop. So we call, and unfortunately for us, he had the nut flush draw and then got there with the ace. I mean, he's done nothing wrong, of course. Just grim. I mean, this is probably the best case scenario we could have been in against this guy, where he has an over and a flush draw, and sadly he got there. We open the jacks. We get 3-bet by a particularly tight fish. Again, it's a spot where we should be happy to just pile the money in here, but the guy's, I mean, I'm not sure what his entire sample is, but if it's anything like this, 17-11 with a 2.4% 3-bet, this becomes a pretty rough spot. I mean, we're just button versus blind. We're never going to do anything but get it in, or try and get it in. But yeah, this guy isn't fucking around. He doesn't have any like light re-steals here. He either just has hands that are flipping against, or he has us crushed most of the time. But what are we going to do? It's two jacks, button versus blind. He checks. We put him in. He calls, and I remember this hand now too, and I was just like, what is going on in this world? Because he just had the king queen of clubs. So, I mean, it's 3-bet pre, probably, yeah, no issue with that. Calling the 4-bet out of position, yeah. I think he chose a pretty bad hand to do that with, and then he just calls it off on the on the 10-5-7. So yeah, go you. Well played, sir. 2 ace again. There's a surprise. We are 3-betting an unknown villain. He's 4-betting. We're just flatting. Right, I must have had a reason for this. I guess maybe we haven't got the exact sample here. Because this, normally I would just, I don't know. I mean, I think calling's fine, but my read on these games is that when people 4-bet, they tend not to fold. So we probably should just have put the 5-bet in and got it in. But we haven't. For some reason, we decided to go for a trap here instead. An opponent c-bets, we call. An opponent shoves a turn, we call. All very standard. And here, kings here. We could have just saved ourselves a few clicks and got it in pre there. Yeah, isolating with the 2 aces. We are getting limp raised. We are just calling. I guess he is just we just don't want to fold anything at this point. We're going to have a real OSPR. He checks. We bet tiny. He check raises. We call. Bit elaborate here, Reg. We could have got the money in twice already, probably. We call again. And he had top sets. This guy limp raised and check raised top set. Quite remarkable. He check raised top set on the dry board and was fortunate enough to run into one of the only hands that I'm going to call him with there. But yeah, well played, sir. Not marking myself down for that one. We have a limp here. We have a 3 big blind ISO from someone who looks fishy, but who knows, because 8 hands. But we do know. He's got a gap between his VP and his PF, and he's not playing a full stack, so the man is a fish. Obvious fish on the button, cold calling. We need to squeeze here. We need to squeeze pretty big. What size would I like to see myself go here? Again, really quite big. There's already 11 big blinds in the pot. I think it would be a mistake to just go, say, 14 bigs here. Let's get it pumped right up. 18, 19, 20 bigs. 17. Okay, I suppose. But could have gone bigger. Probably should have. Pretty damn safe flop. We see bet. He goes all in. We call. Blah, blah, blah. He had the ace king. Well played, sir. You fucking idiot. On to the pocket tens. Aha, right. Here we go. So after my third session yesterday, I was going back. I think at the time I was maybe up a little bit, but not a lot, and I was a little bit frustrated, a little bit annoyed. I'd been on the wrong end of a few coolers, etc., etc. And I was just thinking about what can I do differently? What am I doing wrong? Because things weren't going great. I was up a little bit, but not a lot. And I was kind of thinking, what can I do? Can I make any changes to try and exploit this pool more than I currently do? And I landed on just making larger pre-flop raises. And this is because there's lots and lots of these types of players, 30/9, 38/18 with low 3-bets. There's not enough of these types, 22/18s with a high 3-bet, to dissuade me from, to make me think that opening smaller is better. The reasons that I personally open smaller, and I'm not saying these are the reasons why other people do it, are because I felt I was playing against in pools with lots of regulars who were 3-betting me quite frequently, and I wanted to open smaller so those players made less when they 3-bet me and I folded. And also when people 3-bet small, it also prices me to call some more bets because we're going to have a deeper SPR post flop. So those were my reasons for opening smaller. But outside of a few handful of players, there aren't many players out there who are 3-betting wide enough to exploit larger opens. There's going to be one or two, but it just feels to me that having the smaller open to protect myself from maybe 5, possibly 10% of the pool is not as good as using larger opens. Fair enough, I have to lose a little bit more when I fold to 3-bets. Fair enough, it costs me a little bit more to defend the hands I want to defend because people's 3-bets are usually going to be larger than when we're making the 2.4x. So there's those two negatives, but I think a much larger positive is there's just lots and lots of fishy players who I'm much better than, and I can just build bigger pots with them earlier in hands, get more value. A lot of people were I think if they're going to defend the blind for 2.5x, they're going to defend the blind for 3.28x. Like the types of players I'm talking about. This guy's ranges will probably change based on sizing. He's going to be sensitive to my sizing. This guy isn't. This guy isn't. This guy isn't. So and most of the players, this guy probably isn't either. Even though he's the other regular talking about who I think is pretty good and does pretty well in this pool. Again, another one is kind of breaking even, but I think he's better than that. I think probably like 80% plus of the typical 25 NL pool, and maybe even more of the 10 NL pool, I'm not particularly sensitive to sizings pre in terms of am I going to call or three bet this hand. I don't think it forces people to fold that many more hands than they would. Maybe in the blinds a little bit, but I don't think people are changing their pre-flop strategy based on whether I 2.5x or 3.3x, as this is like coming up 3.2. 3.28, which is actually 3.3 in the client. I think maybe only a small number of people are going to make significant adjustments. And I think this is just better at exploiting the pool. So I started doing this on my third session last night, and we'll see how those results turn out from there. We get a call out of the big blind, out the small blind, sorry. He then leads on this flop, he donks. We raise. He then goes all in, we call. Turn of 10, river of queen. Why isn't this hand noted? This hand should be. Let's make a note live. Because, oh, I know why this hand wasn't noted. Because I'm a fucking idiot. Oh, I think I know why it wasn't. Donk, top pair, top kicker, and did he jam over? Did he jam over the 3-bet? Yeah, he did. And jam raise for 60 BB 9 6 deuce rainbow. Because these are really important that we get these notes when people do stuff that, because quite often, sometimes you're like, oh, so he's donked and he's jammed, he probably got a set or whatever, because there's no draws there. But yeah, it's important to know these guys who will just stack off as light as that and just get the money in as quickly as possible against them before you can start leveling yourself or misreading situations. We open the ace-5 here, we get two callers again, exactly the types of players we're talking about. We could have made this 2.5x or 3.28x. Now 3.3x when we'd have exactly the same situation. And now we get to the flop with almost 10 blinds in the pot rather than getting to the flop with 7 blinds in the pot. It's significant. It makes a big difference in terms of how much value you can get. If we just run this through, this is 7.5x. So say we see bet 2/3 pot here. That would, and one player called, that will put 17 blinds in the pot going to the turn. We bet 2/3 pot here and one player calls, it puts whatever, 22 blinds in. Then the turn black, and it just grows exponentially. Just by using my normal sizings post flop, this pot could be, upwards of 15 to 20 blinds bigger by the river. Which is obviously a good thing against these types of players. So I think the larger bet is probably going to be a feature of the larger pre-flop is going to be a feature of my game for a while. And I think that's a good thing, even though it's pretty unorthodox and lots of you guys will probably hate it. We get donked into here. We have trips. We just call. He donks a turn. We now raise, just so we can have a really easy river shove. We don't need to because he goes all in. We call. And he just randomly writes this another. No, I haven't taken. There must be a problem because I'm like pressing the button to mark hands for the view so I can get all my notes, and there must be a problem. I must be missing some hands here. Right, so that's AJO small blind. Donk 554 lead. Oops, lead turn. Break and call, shove, unimproved. Because again, it's really important notes to have against these people. Like A, not to bluff them when they donk, if they're going to be calling it off with stuff like this, and B, just raise them like a lot thinner for value because they're going to be paying off with stuff like this. So that's that hand done and dusted. Kings, 4 big blind open from an obvious recreational player. We 3-bet 2 around 15 bigs. He calls 7 Jack 3. We bet half pot. He calls. He just randomly donk shoves a turn. We call. And he had ace-10. Did we note this one? Or have we got a different note on this guy? See, there's something wrong. I need to be very, very, very aware of, because there's so many hands I'm missing here where people just giving me some gold dust notes. So what happened here? He defended ace-10 off pre-flop to a 3-bet. He check called 7-3x. Defend ATO 3-bet. Check call Jack 7-3 rainbow. And then just donk shove turn break. And donk shove 28 BB turn break. Again, these notes are all like absolutely critical. What I might do actually for a video next week is just tag hands and then just note take them all. Just do like a note taking video. I think it's definitely something people don't do enough of. It's something I used to do when I was like and I use the word advisedly, but when I was like a crusher of these games, I was just so note heavy. I was just obsessed with taking notes, and I haven't been doing that lately. I haven't been doing that for a long time. Not as many as I should, anyway. And it's obviously really critical because stuff like this is gold dust. It's absolute gold dust. You could just adjust to these guys and exploit them very, very hard if you collect the information that they're giving you and make sure you store it somewhere. So we're 3-bet in the pocket jacks. We get 2 callers. We're c-bet in the flop, half pot. We're getting a caller. We're shoving the turn. We're getting a caller. And he had the ace-5. And I think that's one we do have noted, is it? Yeah, min raise flat 3-bet ace-5 suited. Yeah, so that's one we have been noted. Yeah, there's like a button you can press in. There's an F button or something. I'm going to have to just start like manually marking hands for review. Because it's obviously what I'm doing at the minute isn't capturing stuff. We're going to 3-bet the ace king. We get a caller. We c-bet the flop half pot. He just rips it all in. And he had the 8-7 of clubs, and there you go. We've got the note there. So we are capturing notes. I'm not bullshitting you guys. I am capturing notes. I'm just clearly not capturing all the notes. And yeah, he got there with the flush. I didn't even notice he got there with the flush. Thanks for making me relive that fucking awful memory. So we have a pink player here. We don't have many hands on him, but in this sample, but I've almost certainly got more than that. He opens, we 3-bet as well. I think we could maybe go bigger here. I mean, he has a very low fold to 3-bet over a small sample. He calls. C-bet the flop. He has yet to stab in position versus a miss C-bet, although small sample. He raises us, which makes very little sense. We just jam. He calls. And he had 6-4. I remember this time we got the note as well. We do have the note with this. So this is like a loose, aggressive guy, and that's why it doesn't necessarily mean good. The pink tag is not. It's neither an insult nor a compliment. It just is what it is. It's just you are pretty loose, pretty aggressive. This guy's open 6-4 suited under the gun. Not in any range chart I've ever seen. He's then defended it to a 3-bet. Not in any range chart I've ever seen. Then he's had the fucking audacity to flop 2 pairs, and then we get it in because I think we're entitled to just play our hand the way we played it. And this is what pisses me off about all-in EV is that, like, I haven't made a mistake in this hand. I don't think I've anyway. I think I played the hand completely fine, totally standard. But we got it in with whatever fucking, like it's a significant underdog against a hand we could never really legitimately give our opponent. So my EV line takes a hit on this, despite the fact I think I played the hand better than my opponent. So fuck you, EV lines. Just fuck you and fuck all your children because you are pure as bullshit. It doesn't reflect. They're not pure bullshit. Of course, they reflect exactly how you're running when you get your money all in. But if your EV line is good or bad, don't be too influenced by it because, at the end of the year, if you play a good sample of hands, it will end up roundabout even. And it's just one way of measuring how good or bad you're running. I mean, imagine that we didn't get there with this hand and we lost. It would look like, oh, this fucking moron Reggie's got his fucking money in with like whatever percent equity it would be in this spot, like 20% equity, maybe less. What a fucking idiot! How shit are you, Reg? But against his range, Um, you know, I don't think it's a badly played hand at all. And the fact he's turned up with this hand, which puts me in like a bad equity spot in terms of like looking at how my graph's going to look when I either get there or don't. Um, yeah, I think like you've got to take a lot of these things with a pinch of salt. Moving on to the pocket tens. What time is this? Not sure how many more hands we're going to have here, but we'll see. We got the tens. We get someone who's red tagged. Red tag is just someone who's playing like very, very reggish type stats, same as this guy here. 25-19, 24-20. I don't pay much heed to these 3-bet stats over these smallish samples when these are regulars. This guy, for example, 24-20. This could easily be his number. That could easily come down to, in another 2,000-3,000 hands, that could easily come down to 7 or 8. Same with this guy. So we don't pay too much heed to the 3-bet stats on these guys. But we've got 2 regulars. Maybe or maybe not getting into pissing contests, cut off on button. We can't cold call here with the tens. I guess as it's made the video, we're not going to cold call, and we're going to do that. He folds. He then goes all in. I think we don't think we can cold 4-bet, and then if this guy 5-bets, I think we can fold the tens quite easily because he's seen 2 people raise behind him. His range is going to be super narrow for just like shoving. When he does it, I think he can have awful lot of like well, not an awful lot, but enough like ace king and what have you in there. Maybe the occasional fucking random nonsense where we just have to call off. I don't love it, but once we decide to call 4-bet, I don't think we can fall to the 3-better. Someone might correct me. And then we just got it in against kings and lost. Not entirely surprised to see that. Right, this one's quite interesting. So we have someone who maybe ends up being pink if these stats continue, 30, 29, 7.1, but the minute is tagged green for some reason. We have a note on him. Why is he tagged green? This is the 8-7. This is the 8-7 flush draw guy. And then we got this random, absolute, just total nonsense player ripping. So I think basically all in our fold, isn't it? And we can't fold this hand. This guy's just putting way too much dead money in. Well, not dead money, but this isn't going to be with a particularly, sophisticated range. So, even if we are like, flipping against his range, or maybe even doing slightly worse against his range, this extra money in the pot just makes it worth going for it. So we do go for it. This guy calls. Flop ourselves a queen. River ourselves a queen. And we got it in pretty bad, against the aces and the tens. And we sucked out and we got to win. And then, again, this is where EV's like kind of bullshit because we won a massive pot there where we were like just crushed. We were crushed pre. But again, versus their ranges, I think it's a spot we have to take. So this makes it look like, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot. He got his money in, with like fucking less than 10% equity pre-flop. What a fucking moron this guy is. But, the way the hand played down, I think we had no choice but to get our money in. So again, it just like showed that EV lines are somewhat bullshit and don't tell the whole story. Yellow tag player, which is my tag for absolute stain on the game. Another yellow tag player here, 19/4, 14/11. Fuck off, lads. We squeeze up. This guy's been 3-bet. I didn't even notice that at the time, I don't think. So we've now put the cold 4-bet into 20 bigs. He's ripped. And he just got queens in pre, so well played you fucking idiot. This one. This one was me getting just a little bit fruity. This isn't a misclick pre. This is me just thinking, for whatever reason, let's just play this hand. And if you look at my stats over a huge sample, you'll see this isn't standard for me. My under the gun pre-flop raise is like fucking 12%, something like that. But I just decided, for whatever reason, we all do it sometimes. Fuck it, let's have a little raise. And we flop ourselves a gut shot, double gut shot, and a flush draw with a hand we should never have. This player checks. He's got like a pretty high stab versus miss c-bet, so we decide to go with the check raise, I think. He calls. We turn ourselves a flush. We go with a 38 big blind bet. Just over half our stack, which is a bit of a shit sizing for me, I think. He rips it in our face. We called quicker than you could imagine. And he had the 7-8. So we opened the hand we shouldn't open under the gun. He called a hand he shouldn't call with pre-flop versus under the gun. He bet the flop when he should probably just check back. We raised when we shouldn't be in the pot in the first place. He then called our raise, and then we bet the turn, and he shoved in a spot where he should just be playing calls and folds. And then we called, and we had him drawing dead. So that was all very nice. Back to something much more me. We were up 3.3x, complete whale. This is a guy who was in with the pocket tens earlier. I check here because this guy seems to stab a lot. Call. We raise. This fishy player called again, so he's called. We are pretty fucking deep here. Don't even remember this hand. We check back the turn. I guess that's just my attempt to pot control. He bets the river. I think there can be some raising from us there, to be honest. I think maybe we've missed some value here. Maybe we lose the fucking hand. Who knows? No, Jack 6. Yeah, I mean, what's happened pre-flop here? Yeah, this guy again. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. The 2.4x or the 2.5x or the 3.3x is not changing the hands these players defend. You know, when you raise 2.5x and someone defends with Jack 6, you're like, well, maybe he's done that because of my sizing. But we've done this 3.3 and he's still caught with the Jack 6. So I think it does validate the arguments I was making earlier for the larger raise size in this pool. And yeah, I think like what happened on the flop, we raise and he calls. I don't hate given how deep we are. I think if we're like just 100 blinds deep, this just goes bet on the flop, but bet on the turn, shove river or whatever. 200 blinds deep, but don't hate my check back. River, he bets. I mean, maybe it's just a call. I mean, what's worse, he's going to call. Maybe I'm being harsh on myself. Maybe. And that's it. That's the end of the hand. So let's move into Hold'em Manager now, and we'll just look at the graph. I didn't really want to show you my stats because they're not something I'm especially proud of. But this is like the year to date, just 25 and now. We'll look at the whole year to date in a moment. And it's going pretty well. On a bit of 10 and out now, sorry. Played 20,000 hands, and we've made 18 buy-ins. So that's obviously going really, really well. All in adjusted, we played 20,000 hands, we made 15 buys. Even all in adjusted, which is a bullshit figure, we're still winning at like 7.5 bigs 100 so far this year. Now, if we move this to just this year with everything in there, you'll see a bit of a difference. We've only up 1,500 buy-ins, 15 buy-ins in 30,000 hands, and that there's been some like that's shit. There's been some. Most of these like big down spikes. Let's look at it in dollars. It'll be easier to like represent it. In dollars, you can see it's like that horrendous. That was just me playing 15L and getting my ass handed to me, and then we never really kind of regained our composure. Which from there, then there may be some more 15L in here. That basically, I think. Let's just look for a moment at just 15L for the year. I'd like to say that I'm running bad, but I'm not. So that's 15L for the year. We're down $250, and using the bullshit all in EV, we probably should be too, or close to it. So that's like $250 down for the year, just playing 15L, and we are wherever that is. $250 up for the year. So we'd be $500 up for the year if we hadn't played 15L. And being $500 up for the year in 13 days, I can live with that. I can definitely live with that. So yeah, it's not something I'm going to beat myself up for. And because I don't like looking at this graph, because it's depressing, this is where I'm just filtering for what I consider to be my main games, just because it just doesn't make me quite as sad, to be honest with you. It's just like a mental game thing. I'm not hiding my results. It's not like I'm saying, "Oh, delete 15L, delete 15L. I don't want to see it." I'm accepting that it's there. It'll be there at the end of the year, but I don't need to look at it. So we're just doing that, and we don't need to look at the EV either. So we're gonna look at that graph and be like really quite pleased with ourselves, to be honest. Fuck it, we'll look at look at this now. So these are my results in what I consider. I mean, this 10L. The only reason I'm playing 10L is just like 3 tables feels quite slow now. I've managed to train myself quite well to play like 3 tables and have it feel slow and feel like I play quite well. So the fourth table is just there of 10 and L, not because I want to play 10 and L especially, just because I can't play 4 tables of 25 and L. So it's just there, fills the gap on the screen, helps me get an extra 200 hands per hour. As you can see, like we're winning at 10.45 bigs, but which is like I think probably a little bit too high. I don't think that's achievable long term, but I think this probably is. This 7.4, if I play well, this is achievable. Look at my stats. I'm a stain. I'm playing 17-14. I think this 3-bet's too high, to be completely honest with you. I expect this number to come down over the course of the weeks and months. I just don't think there's any reason in these pools you're playing. I hate trying to put figures on things, but we all do it. We're playing a pool where over 80% of the pool are just like pretty weak, pretty tight, and pretty passive. We do not want to have a high 3-bet figure, in my opinion, against that pool of players. And then you get the players who are more loose aggressive, who you maybe want to have a wider 3-betting range against. And then motherfuckers never fold the 3-bets anyway, because they're more of the solver stroking the fucking dick, having a wank about, oh, I have 2 blockers to fucking certain hands, and they wanted to play every fucking pot to the river anyway and try and outplay you. So, why do I want to 3-bet against guys like that are that competitive anyway? Why do I want to get into pissing contests with them fucking ass wipes of the fucking game too? So basically, the entire pool is stains. They're either stains because they are fucking nits, filthy fucking nits like me. The stains because they're weak, tight, passive fucking shit nits. They're just loose, passive, enjoyable players to play against. Or they are the fucking wanker sober generation. So yeah, these stats are probably going to say quite similar to this, but with this number coming down, with this number, I want this number to be higher. I want this to be like over 65. I want this to be, under 6. I want this number here to be like under 27. And I want this fucking number here to be as fucking high as it can possibly be. Look at my rake, and this number's too high too, both of them. If we achieve the other things that I want to achieve in terms of getting these numbers where I want them to be, this number will come down to below 6 as well. There's no sense, right, thinking, oh, there's be a rate back fucking person on Triple Eight, because Triple Eight rate backs are shambles. So yeah, that's it. You've seen the hands. You've also seen a little bit behind. I didn't really want to show these stats because I know they are fucking nitty, and people will like flame me for them. I don't give a fuck if they're effective. If playing 17-15 with a, I don't know, even lower percent 3-bet is going to win me, long term 7.4 big blinds 100, and I can play 800 hands an hour, and I can play 100,000 hands a month. So I effectively win, say, 70 buy-ins a month at 20 an L. 25 an L. I'm fine for that, because what does that add up to? Come on, calculator. 70 times 25. I'm just going to make 1,750. Right? Imagine that I don't win 7 blinds 100. Imagine I win 4.5 blinds 100. Then you're going to have. What was it? I just can't remember what I just fucking did then. But even if this win rate was cut in half, what was that last number, 1750? I'm still going to be making like $800, $900 a month, which is plenty. So yeah, this is who I am. The series is called Secret Diary of fucking Unemployed Nate. This is who I am. This is what's going to get the job done. This is what's going to keep me as an unemployed Nate. And yeah, we'll just get the results. I don't think I'm going to do videos like this all the time. In terms of just let's look at the 50 biggest hands, because there was some there's some really really dull hands in there. That just weren't worthy of reviewing, to be honest. But I just wanted to put a video out, and I just used yesterday's results as content for that. I'm gonna just mark. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I am going to, while we're playing these games, there will be more videos. Probably a Monday video and a Thursday video, I would imagine, because they're the best days where I have the most time to record stuff. So yeah, expect more content while we're playing Triple Eight. If the content dries up again, it's because it's not going as well as I hoped, and I'm playing somewhere else, or I'm sulking. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. please do hit the like, if you, especially if you got this far. Hit the like. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and please do leave comments, because if the more comments videos get, for some reason, and more likes and comments, YouTube just tends to like promote it to more people, and the videos get more views. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to like build a channel to sell something later in the year or anything. But there's no point making videos and then saying, "Oh, I don't care how many views you get." I'd like to get as many views as possible. I'd like to have as many subscribers as possible, just because I'm a shallow, narcissistic, vain cunt. So please do hit the like. Please do leave a comment. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please share it if you don't mind to your various social medias. And then have a good weekend, everybody. And hopefully we're back on Monday with a video. If not, it means I'm probably borderline suicidal. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Have a lovely weekend, and bye bye for now.